If you've noticed that more American men are distant, detached, or simply uninterested in relationships, it's not a coincidence. They're not angry. They're not bitter. They're quietly checking out. And the real reason why is much deeper than anyone wants to admit. A man once told me, "I didn't stop loving her. I just stopped feeling safe around her." He said it quietly, almost whispering, like a confession he wasn't supposed to speak. He still cared. He still showed up. But somewhere along the way, his heart unplugged itself. Not because of a fight or a betrayal or a single moment, but because of 1,000 small moments where he felt unheard, unseen, and unimportant. And as he spoke, I realized he wasn't alone. Across America, millions of men are quietly withdrawing from relationships, emotionally first, physically later, and almost nobody is asking them why. Modern America is witnessing a silent shift in the emotional landscape of relationships, and it's a shift most people don't see until it's already too late. Men aren't storming out, slamming doors, or making dramatic exits. They're quietly checking out. Not because they hate women, not because they're incapable of love, but because somewhere between expectations, disappointments, and emotional exhaustion, they decided that being alone feels safer than being misunderstood. For years, men have been told to open up, to communicate, to be vulnerable. Yet every time they tried, many found themselves met with criticism, dismissal, or judgment. Over time, they learned the quiet truth. Silence hurts, but speaking hurts worse. And so they retreat. Slowly at first, subtly. A shorter reply, less enthusiasm, more time at work, more time alone. The slow draining of emotional investment until the man still standing beside his partner is no longer the same man who once showed up with fire, laughter, and belief in the relationship. Part of this quiet withdrawal comes from pressure, not the old pressure to be a man, but a new pressure to be everything at once. Modern women, especially in America, are juggling careers, independence, personal growth, and rising standards, and many men deeply respect that. But the relationship expectations often grow with it. Men are expected to be emotionally intelligent without being emotional, financially stable without feeling stressed, protective without being controlling, confident without being arrogant, affectionate without being needy, and consistent without ever failing. One mistake, one bad day, one emotional slip becomes evidence of immaturity, toxicity, or lack of ambition. For many men, it feels like the relationship is a constant performance, and performances are exhausting. So instead of trying harder, they disconnect. Not because they don't care, but because they don't know how to succeed anymore. When effort stops being appreciated, effort stops being offered. There's also the weight of comparison. Social media has quietly poisoned the well of relationships in America. Men feel compared to influencers, fictional husbands in TV shows, or the ideal fantasy of what a partner should be. They're expected to plan like movie characters, listen like therapists, speak like poets, and earn like CEOs, all while navigating their own internal battles with identity, purpose, and the pressure to succeed in a rapidly changing world. And here's the part few talk about. Men don't complain about this. They internalize it. They absorb the disappointment. They carry it alone, until the emotional load becomes so heavy that the only survival instinct left is to detach. Quietly. Gradually. Without ceremony. Another reason American men are quietly checking out is because conflict no longer feels like communication. It feels like a trap. Modern relationships often turn disagreements into moral battles instead of shared struggles. When a man expresses a concern, he risks being labeled insensitive, insecure, controlling, or emotionally unavailable. So instead of engaging, he withdraws. He says, "You're right," instead of saying how he truly feels. He apologizes for things he didn't do to keep the peace. He suppresses his needs because he fears his needs will be dismissed. And each time he swallows his truth, his emotional connection dies a little more. Men don't leave because they stop loving. They leave because they stop believing their love is wanted. Many American men are also emotionally checking out because they are tired of being seen as problems to be fixed instead of partners to be understood. Modern culture often paints men as deficient, not communicative enough, not vulnerable enough, not emotionally literate enough. And while growth is important, constant correction destroys connection. A man cannot thrive in a relationship where he feels inadequate. He cannot open his heart where he feels judged. He cannot be vulnerable where vulnerability is used against him. So he adapts by withdrawing into the only safe space he knows, himself. Economics play a role too. In America, men still carry the unspoken expectation to provide, even as dual-income households become the norm. If he's struggling financially, he feels unworthy. If she earns more, he feels insecure. If he can't keep up with inflation, lifestyle standards, or her social circle, he feels like a burden. Men who feel financially inadequate rarely say it. They simply shut down emotionally. They distance themselves to hide shame. They detach to avoid disappointing their partners. They love quietly while feeling like failures loudly. Another reason is emotional burnout. Many men were raised without emotional support. They grew up hearing, "Man up," "Don't cry," "Handle it," and "No one cares." They entered adulthood believing feelings were weaknesses. So when they finally try to open up in relationships, they don't know how. And instead of receiving patience, they often receive frustration. Women say they want men to open up. But when men do, they're often told they're overreacting, being dramatic, or not expressing feelings the right way. So men retreat not because they don't feel, but because feeling openly feels dangerous. There's also the fear of vulnerability without guarantee. In America today, many men have seen relationships fall apart despite their loyalty, effort, and commitment. They've watched friends lose everything in divorces, custody battles, and emotional breakdowns. They've heard stories of betrayal, manipulation, and love turning into hostility. So they keep their emotions guarded not to hurt women, but to protect themselves from what they've seen happen to other men. They love cautiously. They attach slowly. They give less, so they lose less. Another silent factor is the loss of admiration. Men don't need constant praise, but they do need to feel respected. Admiration is oxygen to masculine energy. When a man feels admired, he will walk through fire for the relationship. When he feels criticized, dismissed, or belittled, he emotionally disappears. Modern American relationships often replace appreciation with expectation. Thank you becomes you should. Effort becomes invisible. Presence becomes taken for granted. And men quietly shut down because they feel unseen. A man who feels unappreciated eventually stops trying. Not out of spite, but out of self-protection. And then there's the larger cultural shift. Relationships no longer feel like partnerships. They feel like negotiations. Scorekeeping replaces kindness. Independence replaces interdependence. I don't need you replaces I choose you. Men are checking out because they no longer feel needed, not in a codependent way, but in a meaningful way. The masculine energy exists to protect, support, build, and guide. When those roles are dismissed or mocked, men lose their place. And where there is no place, there is no emotional investment. Many men also check out because peace matters more to them than anything else. If a relationship becomes a source of chaos, conflict, or emotional instability, he doesn't fight, he fades. Men don't argue their way out of love. They disconnect their way out. They stop showing emotion. They stop expressing needs. They stop initiating. Not because they don't care, but because their nervous system can't handle constant emotional turbulence. A peaceful man will always choose solitude over survival mode. And here's the heartbreaking part. Most men who check out emotionally still love their partner. They still care. They still show up physically, pay bills, share space, do chores, and maintain routines. But the emotional thread connecting them has unraveled quietly, silently, in a way they don't know how to explain. They weren't taught to recognize emotional detachment, only to endure it. But here's the part no one talks about. Men don't want to check out. They want connection. They want admiration. They want peace. They want to be understood without being shamed. They want to show love in the simple ways men show love, through presence, loyalty, action, and consistency. When a man checks out emotionally, it's almost always because he feels unheard, unappreciated, or unsafe in vulnerability. So why are American men quietly checking out of relationships? Because they feel overwhelmed, judged, misunderstood, underappreciated, financially insecure, emotionally unprepared, socially compared, and culturally blamed. Because they feel relationships ask for more than they can offer. Because they feel safer alone than exposed. Because the world changed, expectations changed, love changed. But men were never taught how to adapt emotionally. The solution isn't for women to shrink or men to become perfect. It's for both sides to rediscover empathy. Men need emotional guidance, not emotional attacks. Women need consistent love, not withdrawal. Relationships thrive where both people feel safe, respected, and chosen, not judged or replaced. This is Men Decoded, where we don't blame men, don't shame women, and don't avoid truth. We decode it.